Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for the fastest news, the boldest rumors, and the deepest MotoGP analysis on the planet. Today we're talking about a headline that has the entire paddock buzzing because when Jorge Lorenzo, a five-time world champion, and Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning king of Ducati, both say there's no way back in 2025, this isn't just talk. This is a seismic warning. Two champions from different eras, united by the same red machine, waving the same red flag. And this is important because MotoGP history tells us something very clear. When champions start speaking the same language, even when they're separated by time, by age, and by circumstance, it usually means the sport itself is standing at a turning point. To understand why this matters, you have to understand Ducati's DNA. Ducati has never been just another manufacturer. Ducati is philosophy. Ducati is obsession. Ducati is engineering taken to an extreme where beauty and brutality exist side by side. This is a bike that doesn't simply reward talent, it demands sacrifice. It demands total commitment. It demands that the rider reshape himself around the machine, not the other way around. That's why Ducati can turn riders into legends, or break them completely. Jorge Lorenzo lived that reality in its purest form. When Lorenzo joined Ducati in 2017, the narrative wrote itself. A five-time world champion. A master of smooth corner speed. Surgical precision. Yamaha DNA meeting Italian horsepower. On paper, it looked inevitable. The paddock talked about domination before the first test lap was even completed. But MotoGP is never about paper. The Desmosedici Lorenzo inherited was not a bike built for elegance. It was a bike that demanded violence. Hard braking. Brutal acceleration. Rear-end management on the edge of disaster. It punished hesitation instantly. And for a rider whose greatness was built on rhythm and flow, Ducati felt like a constant argument, an argument the bike always seemed to win. Every weekend became psychological warfare. The pressure didn't come only from results. It came from the media, from Italy, from Ducati's own history of chewing through elite riders. Every crash became a headline. Every struggle became a question mark over his legacy. Confidence doesn't disappear all at once, it erodes, corner by corner, braking zone by braking zone. And yet, when Lorenzo finally cracked the code, when everything aligned, the result was emotional, explosive, unforgettable. Mugello. Barcelona. Wins that felt like liberation rather than domination. Wins that proved he could tame the beast. But here's the detail people forget. Even in victory, Lorenzo paid a price. He understood something only Ducati riders truly understand. This bike never gives without taking. It gives speed, but it takes margin. It gives victories, but it takes comfort. It gives glory, but it demands something personal in return, physically, mentally, emotionally. So when Lorenzo looks at Ducati in 2025, he doesn't see a comeback story. He doesn't see unfinished business. He sees evolution without mercy. He sees a bike that has doubled down on everything that once made it unbearable. More power, more aerodynamics, more complexity, less forgiveness. That's why his warning matters. Because now we fast forward to Pecco Bagnaia. If Lorenzo was the outsider trying to adapt to Ducati, Pecco is the opposite. Pecco didn't just adapt, he became Ducati. His riding style, his race intelligence, his calm under pressure all synced perfectly with the Desmosedici's strengths. 2 world titles. Ice-cold race control. Tire management that borders on clinical perfection. Pecco is not a rider who speaks emotionally. He speaks in numbers. In data. In lap time deltas. In trends. So when Pecco says there's no way back, it's not frustration. It's calculation. He knows the grid is no longer standing still. KTM is no longer learning, it's attacking. Aggressive development. Young riders with nothing to lose. A bike that rewards commitment and doesn't punish mistakes the way Ducati does. Aprilia is no longer the dark horse. It's structured. Intelligent. Aerodynamically sharp. A bike that allows riders to explore the limit without crossing it every lap. Yamaha, wounded but not dead, is rebuilding with purpose. Less politics. More engineering focus. A return to fundamentals that once made them unbeatable. Honda, humiliated for years, is waking up angry, and an angry Honda has always been the most dangerous Honda. And then there's Ducati itself. Because Ducati's biggest threat is no longer outside the garage, it's inside it. More riders. More data. More internal competition. A bike evolving so fast that even its own champions are forced to relearn it every season. More aerodynamics means less natural feel. More downforce means smaller margins. More devices mean less room for instinct. The modern Desmosedici is a masterpiece, but it's also a trap. When everything works, it's unbeatable. When something is even slightly off, the fall is brutal. And Pecco understands that at this level, the margin for error isn't shrinking, it's disappearing. That's why when both Lorenzo and Bagnaia speak about 2025 in the same tone, it sends chills through the paddock. One speaks from scars. The other speaks from foresight. One remembers what Ducati took from him. The other knows what Ducati may demand next. And the terrifying part is that Ducati won't slow down. It never has. It never will. Progress is the religion in Bologna. If a rider survives, good. If not, the next one is already waiting. Which brings us back to that phrase, no way back. Because in MotoGP, that doesn't just mean results. It means identity. It means confidence. It means the point where adaptation turns into survival. And history shows that when Ducati reaches this phase, only a very specific type of rider can stay upright, stay fast, and stay sane. And right now, the entire grid is watching the same red machine, asking the same silent question. Picture the 2025 paddock. Engineers glued to laptops, eyes locked on live telemetry, fingers hovering over keyboards like surgeons mid-operation. Riders walking past like rock stars, but behind the sunglasses and confidence, every one of them calculating. Whispers moving faster than the engines themselves. Not about lap times. Not about pole positions. About survival. Because the question in 2025 isn't who's fastest anymore, it's who can live with what the sport has become. Ducati is still the most powerful package on the grid. No one denies that. The acceleration. The straight-line dominance. The braking stability. The aero efficiency. On paper, it's still the benchmark. But power alone no longer wins championships. And Ducati now demands something that very few riders can consistently deliver: perfection. Ride height devices that must activate within milliseconds. Electronics maps so precise that one wrong adjustment can destroy rear grip for an entire weekend. Setup windows so razor-thin that a single temperature change can turn a winning bike into an unrideable monster. There is no reset button anymore. One wrong direction in development. One bad run of races. One crisis of confidence and the season spirals. Momentum doesn't slow down in MotoGP. It snaps. That's the real meaning behind Lorenzo and Pecco's warning. They're not talking about speed. Ducati has speed. They're talking about tolerance. About how much room the bike gives you when things aren't perfect. And in 2025, Ducati gives you none. This is why 2025 is not a comeback season. It's a survival season. Look at the rivals closely. KTM is building bikes that forgive aggression. Aprilia is building bikes that communicate. Yamaha is rebuilding around rider feel. Even Honda's new direction screams one thing: adapt the machine to the human. Ducati is doing the opposite. Ducati is building a machine that demands riders adapt instantly, not over a season, not over half a year, but corner by corner, lap by lap. If you don't understand the bike immediately, the bike doesn't wait for you to learn. It moves on. And in modern MotoGP, there is no time to relearn. There is no room to rebuild momentum. The grid is too close. The talent pool is too deep. Lose confidence, and someone younger, hungrier, and fearless is already knocking on your garage door. Lose time, and you don't just lose points. You lose leverage. You lose trust. You lose careers. That's why this season could change everything. Because when the fastest bike becomes the least forgiving, the championship stops being predictable. Shock results become normal. Mid-pack riders steal victories. Internal tension grows inside factories that are used to winning. And inside Ducati, that pressure multiplies. More riders than ever. More internal